Hi there. I've heard that another way, Randy, that says the mind will only absorb what the tail will tolerate. So I'll try to be short as well. I brought a couple of notes. If I'd have known, Senator Baker, that maybe we could have got the Putnam Obama teleprompter and we could have read it directly. But it is my great pleasure to be here. And thank you very much for inviting us and asking us to come and share our views with you. And I'm a big fan of the Farm Bureau. You've got a great organization. And I get to see you in Tallahassee. I know your president, John Hoblich, Pat Cockrell, Bill Courtney, your leadership team does a great job, but I get to see what Ben does and James Trafton in Tallahassee, and they do a very good job for you, and I think you ought to give them a round of applause for what they've done. I just want to tell you a little bit about me, and then I'll get into the important stuff, which is where I stand and why I think that this job is important and why I'm running for it. I mean, I'm proud to stand here with these candidates, and we have great candidates running for this office. Senator Kerry Baker has done a great job in the Florida legislature. He's done a great job as the first sergeant of the Florida National Guard. Thad, thank you very much for your service, as well as Colonel Gray, who got recognized. I know a lot of the Tuskegee Airmen trained in Tallahassee and Mabry Field, and hopefully if you were through Tallahassee, you enjoyed it there. And Randy has done a great job as well with local governments, and Rick Minton, I don't know if Rick is here, but we've got good candidates running for this office, and that says a lot. And Adam Putnam in Washington as well. It says a lot for the office that folks are willing to take a chance and run for statewide office and run all up and down the state because they care about it. I grew up in the Redlands. It's a little farming community down by Homestead. I don't know if you know where that is. I grew up on a very small family farm and moved to Tallahassee and met my wife, Shay, at Florida State University. She was there on a scholarship. She was Miss Georgia Cattleman. And was there on a scholarship from them. And we met and dated and got married. And we've got two boys, Jack and Denver, who are 12 and 14, and two bulldogs, Blue and Lockjaw. And I've lived in Tallahassee since school. I got elected when I was 24 years old. I served as a city commissioner and as mayor for 10 years in Tallahassee. I was president of the Florida League of Cities, and I visited every city in the state of Florida. So no matter where you live, I've been there or close to it. Anyway, and I learned a lot about Florida on that tour, and I learned a lot about serving as mayor. But the reason I want to run for this office is severalfold. First of all, it's a member of the cabinet. And the cabinet does very important things, and the future of Florida in the next few years, a lot of those issues will be before the Florida cabinet. It's one of 4 members of the Florida cabinet. It's an elected member for agriculture, and I know you fought very hard to keep it that way, and it should stay that way. Number 2, consumer services. This job is the voice for consumers in Florida. And Lord knows that consumers need a voice. In Tallahassee, there's plenty of lobbyists, there's plenty of special interests, but everyday folks don't have a lot of people that are talking for them. This job is who talks for consumers. And I'm running for Commissioner of Agriculture because of what Commissioner of Agriculture represents, which is the 3-legged stool of the economy of the state of Florida. Agriculture is a huge part of that. It is over $100 billion worth of impact to our state. You know, I was looking at the cash crops, the cash receipts. We're #1 nationally for oranges, sugarcane, grapefruit, snap beans, bell peppers, watermelon, sweet corn, cucumbers, tangerine, squash. We're #2 in nurseries, tomatoes, and strawberries. Our folks grow peaches. If we had a little more chill hours, we may be able to compete with peaches as well. But that's a big part of Florida, the economic impact that we offer this state. We provide thousands of jobs, billions of dollars to the economy at a time when we need that in our economy. And yet, there's not a whole lot of thanks. Senator Baker is right. The #1 threat to Florida agriculture is government. And that just isn't right. You know, the net ban almost killed the fishing industry where I live, up in North Florida. Now the federal government's talking about banning oysters because they say there's 30 deaths a year, and that's unacceptable. They don't know why, you know, whether it's people that are allergic, that didn't follow risk, whether there's any other pre-existing conditions, just we're going to ban oysters. They're actually having that discussion. We're hearing a discussion about, in the courts, about a one-size-fits-all water nutrient standard. That's not going to work for Florida. You've got hometown democracy threatening private property rights. And Congress is again talking about increasing the estate tax. My wife's family has farmed the same land for nearly 200 years. If that estate tax increases, they won't be able to leave it to their heirs. It won't stay in the family. These issues are personal to me. My wife and I had to sell a farm because our tax collector, our property appraiser, said we're going to have to appraise it as a subdivision rather than a farm. And Greenbelt is under attack every day, every year in the Florida legislature. These issues are personal to me. You know, my father and my father-in-law both started plowing behind a mule. Well, think of how far we've come. My father's 76 years old. He uses a BlackBerry. He's better at it than I am. My father-in-law said he graduated on the back of a John Deere tractor, if you ask him about his education. And he said he went back for a postgraduate degree. He got a PhD when they came out. I said, what, PhD? He said, yeah, post-hole diggers. You've come a long way. This industry's come a long way, and a lot of us have come a long way. A lot of our families, those who went before us and those who went before them. We didn't come all this way to be regulated out of a job. We didn't come all this way to let our private property rights go. We've got to promote what we have in Florida. We need to make sure that we have sustainable, affordable, safe agricultural products. When I drive sometimes, for years I've watched this, I drive the Florida Turnpike coming from Tallahassee down to South Florida. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but pay attention to it if you get a chance. When you get on the Turnpike in Wildwood, and you're heading before you get to Orlando, there's sort of a tale of two cities and where we've seen Florida go in the last few years. On the right-hand side, if you're heading south, you'll see a farm. On the left-hand side, a housing development. For years, I would watch that. That farm was there, and they had cattle, they had stock out there. It was an active farm. And there were a few houses. Over the years, those houses continued to grow, and that farm continued to deteriorate. Today, if you drive by, you can look into people's bathroom windows. It's right up to the interstate. And all that's left of the farm is a water tower and a windmill. That can't be our future in Florida. Because if that happens to us, it's going to happen to everyone through our economy. We have to stand together and fight to make sure that agriculture has a seat at the table. Because after all, we provided the meal. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Scott Maddox.